I'm getting ready to install a new crankshaft timing chain sprocket, crankshaft nose bearing, and the timing chain on this 1983 R100RS. These are all new parts. The timing chain is the single row, and it comes with the master link parts. Now, the crankshaft timing sprocket has a keyway cut into it here, so it'll fit onto a woodruff key on the crankshaft. But I have found that sometimes when they machine it, there's a small burr which will interfere with getting this onto the crankshaft. So I take a file and dress the edge there on both ends just to get rid of any burrs, and that makes getting it on a lot easier. Now, the other thing to notice about the sprocket is that there's a wide shoulder and a narrow shoulder. The wide shoulder goes up against the engine block, and so I marked an arrow right here pointing toward the block. So when I go to install it, that will remind me that this edge goes against the block. Now, there's one other detail, and that's on this tooth. You'll see there's a scribe mark from the factory. The problem is you can't see that when you're trying to get the timing chain on and get this tooth across from the camshaft tooth. So I add a little paint mark right to the edge of the tooth here. Then I can see it more easily when I go to install the timing chain. Now, to put these two parts on, you heat them up to about 350, and I've had good luck with this just sliding on. However, the nose bearing, I've never had that luck, and I have to use a special tool to push it on. One thing I like to do is lubricate the journal that the crankshaft sprocket and nose bearing fit on, and I like to use just a little bit of lard and spread it all around the journal. And that works very well. It makes it nice and slippery for those parts to go on. Now, I mentioned earlier that I've not had any luck pressing the nose bearing on. So what I use is a tool from CycleWorks, which consists of a pusher bolt and a couple of large washers with a needle bearing plate that goes in between so they spin easily. And this goes over the pusher bolt. On the nose of the bolt, it's been threaded so it'll fit right here into the nose of the crankshaft. The other part is a pusher face here and a sleeve. And if I'm going to install the nose bearing, the sleeve has a groove in it on one side and a flat face on the other. So for the use, when I use it with the bearing, I put the groove here on the face and it just catches, and then this goes up against the bearing like that, and then that slides on the crankshaft like this, and then you thread in the pusher bolt into the nose, and then you can tighten up this bolt, tighten up this nut to push the whole assembly forward, and that slides the nose bearing onto the journal. So as I say, I've always had to use this tool to get the bearing on. You can also use the tool if you have to install the crankshaft sprocket, but in that case, one other thing, the sleeve has a groove on the inside, and it's machined to actually fit right over the short nose of the crankshaft sprocket. So it'll go on like that, and then assembled in the same way. So if you can't get this on when it's hot, you can use this to push it on. I like to use some metal polish to clean the journal that the crankshaft timing sprocket and nose bearing slide onto, I want to get rid of any debris on that so it's easy for them to slide on. I also apply a little bit of lard. I find that's a nice lubricant and helps them slide on easily. I'm about ready to put the crankshaft timing gear on. But I wanted to show you that this is the Woodruff key in the crankshaft, and this is about where it is when everything's set to top dead center. So I'll line up the slot in the crankshaft timing gear so it aligns with the Woodruff key, and then hopefully I can just press it on. Okay, I've got it out of the oven, and I'm going to line it up, and bam, slides right on. Now what you want to do is keep pressing it so it stays right up against the crankshaft until it cools down, and it doesn't take more than about 10 or 15 seconds for it to cool right down. One other thing you'll notice is I heated it in the oven with the sleeve on it in case I had to use the pusher tool to press it onto the crankshaft. So I wouldn't need to waste any time. I could just go right ahead and attach the pusher and probably get it on without having to reheat it. Okay, I've got the bearing, and as I say, it usually will not slide on. It just kind of doesn't want to go all the way, so I've got my pusher tool ready to go, and we'll put this on and see if we can get everything to go on with the pusher. Yeah, just tighten that up, and then throw a couple of wrenches on it. There we go. And put that one on there. And we'll just tighten up the nut. And we'll take that all the way down until it's nice and tight. But we'll back this off. Okay. Yep, I can visually confirm that that bearing is right up against the face of the timing chain sprocket. Yeah, there it is, nice and smooth. Everybody's on tight.